Seikatsu. This is a Japanese word that means, oh my goodness, this game is so beautiful, maybe only a poet can review it. Now, I'm not actually sure that that is the meaning of the word, but maybe it should be because they applied it to a game which is indeed really beautiful. Production values are amazing, and I'm not talking about production values in the sense of flashy, loud miniatures, which are fine, I love those too, but really in terms of beauty, of elegance, really impressive components. The theme is that the players are building a Japanese garden and they're trying to set it up in such a way that it will get a very pleasant view from their pagoda. The game is for two to three players mainly, with variants for 4 and 1 even. It can be played solo. This is the board of the game. It has 3 pagodas. Each player takes a pagoda, with 2 players usually use the blue, the light blue and the pink one. So pagoda and pagoda. You place the corresponding scoring markers on the spawn number 0 of the scoring track. Then you have tiles that you dump in the bag. These tiles, 2 of them will go on the board during setup, and you draw them randomly from that bag. They're really nice, sturdy plastic tiles, very pleasant to manipulate, to hold, and to move around. During setup, you will draw 2 randomly, and you place them face down in front of you. You can look at them, but you keep them face down because the opponent should not see what you have. These tiles each have a bird. There are 4 different types of birds, and also each tile has a different type of flower that frames the tiles. So birds and flowers appear in different combinations. So here we have green bird with this flower and green bird with this other flower, and so on and so forth. Really nice. Now, when it is your turn, super simple. You place a tile on the board from the 2 that you have. You score it if you form a certain pattern of birds, and you draw another tile. You continue like this until the board is full, and then you have a round of final scoring, and at that point the game is over and the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. Now, when you place a tile, it needs to be next to a tile that is already on the board. So that's not a legal location. This would be. It may be that by adding a new tile, your bird that you add does not touch any bird of the same type, in which case nothing happens. You play your tile, you draw another tile, and your turn is over. But if your new tile touches 1 or more birds of the same type, like here, then you score a point for each bird in that flock. For example, if I place a tile there, I just score 2 points, which I register immediately by moving my marker on the scoring track. During the game, you only look at birds. Well, you're also looking at flowers in the sense you're setting up a strategy to score flowers at the end of the game, but during the game itself, when tiles are being placed, you only score birds. At the end of the game, you score the flowers. And if then, for example, somebody plays that player gains 2 points immediately for the 2 bluebirds, and then somebody gains 2 points for the green bird, and another player playing like this who score 3 points, and so on and so forth. And this is how points are scored during the game. They can be very good, but you have to keep an eye on what happens next, because the really big profits are in the final scoring of the game. In the final scoring of the game, remember, it's all a matter of perspective. Actually, there is the style that I want to show you, which is important, which is the pond, or the mini pond. When you place it, it counts as a wild. So when you place it, it counts as a wild bird, but only for the turn in which it is played. So when I place it there, I declare that this is one of these red birds, and now I'm scoring 5 points for the group of 5. But then later, that has no denomination anymore. It doesn't count as a bird at all. Now, as for the final scoring, each player will score lines that start from the side of the board. Basically, you score each line. If I am, again, going from the side of the board, or your pagoda, to the opposite side. That means that if I'm the blue player, I will score this line here, and this line here, and this line here, and this line here. I think you get what happens to these other three lines. The pink player will score this other line, and this other line, and this other line. Of course, the tiles are the same, but the configuration will be different, and that is what scores you points. You score points for groups of tiles, large groups of tiles with the same type of flower in each row, in each row or column. Basically, for each such line that departs from your pagoda, you get to score the biggest group of flowers of the same type. For example, we're scoring every line. I'm scoring as the blue player. Now I'm scoring here. Then I score a group of 2 because I have these 2 flowers that are of that type. And then I have 1 and 1. Now we look at this player aid on the back of the rule book, and we see that if my largest group is only 1, that means they're all 4 differently, or all the tiles in a row are different. I score 1 point. Group of 2, that would be my case, I score 3 points, and then I move my marker, and then I go to the next row. If I have a group of 3, 6, 4, 10, 5, 15, 6, very hard to pull off, but not impossible, 21. Here, for example, again, my largest, if I'm looking at this, my largest group is again 2, or these 2, either one. I only score 1, so it is still 2, it is still only 3 points. Here I'm doing better. Here I'm doing considerably better because these are the kind of like light orange flower. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that line there is worth 10 points. So you score each line, each player scores each line departing from their pagoda. You add those to the points that you score during the game by creating flocks of birds, and at that point the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. Seikatsu is a game that is beautiful. It's beautiful on different levels. It is beautiful from the point of view of the components, of course. You saw the art, it's colorful, it's detailed, it creates nice patterns on the board, and also from the tactile point of view, those tokens are really satisfying to hold and to use. So really nice production values. It is also beautiful because of the simple elegance of the design. Place a token, draw a token. You have only two tokens in front of you, so only 2 options, and sometimes they're exactly the same because each token has an exact copy. And yet, even in those cases, you have interesting choices when it comes, of course, to where you're going to place the token, which is what the game is about. In an ideal world, every time that you place a token, you are adding to a pattern that right away or later will help you score, and at the same time you're not helping the opponent. There's an ideal world, not the one that we live in. Luckily enough, our world is much more interesting than if it were ideal. And so you have to make this decision. How much am I helping an opponent if there is a position that helps me but also helps you? It's gonna give me probably a point more that it gives you, so that's better than the opposite, but of course it's not ideal. Also, it is interesting because the curve of increase of the value of the patterns that you score at the end, well, it's a curve that is kind of like it starts spiking towards the end. It snowballs towards larger and larger numbers. So I'm adding 1 right now that if it's the second in a line that you can exploit, that doesn't give you much. But then if you turn that into a line of 3, 4, 5, then I would regret that. I regret giving even a small contribution. So it is really interesting that everything that you put down could potentially be exploited by the opponent if you're not careful. At the same time, of course, there's also the equal possibility of placing replacing tokens that are just to annoy the whatever out of the opponent, that is to disrupt the patterns that they are forming. And again, the point is, but while I'm doing that, maybe this turn I'm not adding to my own patterns, but I really need to prevent you from completing a line, from getting a line go from 5 to 6, for example, because that would be a huge increase. So just interesting decisions that emerge from this incredible simple idea. It has the simplicity of games like Splendor, which is also a game that I like very much. It is one of these games pretty much with one rule, and yet with a lot of interesting decisions. I like the fact that I can play it with pretty much anybody, from my 7-year-old daughter to to casual players, extremely casual players that play a game every couple of years. This could be one that, they'd be able to learn it and play it right away, and also see what are the interesting elements. Yeah, I think this is a great gateway game. Probably is going to be one of my favorite gateway games. Together with Splendor and a couple of other ones, it is going to be one of the games that I use to introduce new players to the beauty of the hobby. Players that have played only Clue and Monopoly, and because they think that's all that there is, that they've never been interested in the hobby. Seikatsu, Splendor, Sagrada, they make a perfect trinity of gateway games. This is really a game that impressed me. I had a great time playing it. I'm telling you, I wish I could play right now, which I guess I could because of the solo option, but to me that is not as interesting. But however, who knows, maybe you'll try it, you'll like it, just another way of playing the game. But I really feel like I want to play it because this game is just so much fun. Really great game. Seikatsu, highly recommended.